How's it going, everybody? Welcome to the Roller Coaster History Podcast. You are listening to Airtime Traveler. My name is Nathan Grace, and as always, I'm joined by my wife and lovely co-host.
Hey, I'm Haley Grace.
And thank you for tuning in to this totally not delayed and procrastinated Lagoon trip report.
Totally.
Yeah, we just got back last week, and now, if you've been listening to the podcast for any amount of time recently, then you know this has been a long time coming, and I apologize that it has taken this long to get this done. Yeah. But to be fair, we did have a baby just a couple months after the Lagoon trip happened.
She's a cute baby.
So she is cute, so I think it is worth the wait. But
for us at least.
Yeah, for
maybe
you,
not so.
Yeah. For you just had to sit there and wait, and you didn't actually get to hang out with the cute baby, so that's unfortunate. But
Totally.
Anyway, but
Missing out.
I am excited to finally get to share some of my thoughts for my trip to Lagoon. And then I mentioned this on our socials, but in case you didn't see, this is Lagoon time here at Airtime Traveler because we're doing the Lagoon trip report today. Next Thursday will be our very first Lagoon episode, so we'll be talking about one of the roller coasters at Lagoon for that episode. So be sure to tune in for that. And then we'll have other trip reports for more recent and timely trips that we've taken recently. So try to get back on schedule as far as the trip reports are concerned. So, but let's just dive right into this. So one thing to call out at the front of this is Haley did not go to Lagoon with me because at the time she was still pregnant. Yep. And so she would have been
pregnant and my brother was getting married. So
so she was spending time with her family. She wouldn't have been able to ride the coasters anyway. So it was kind of like it just made sense that we were in Utah and we were only going to be there for a little bit of time. And so I had never been. So I was like, I'm going to spend a day at Lagoon, knock out all the coasters. And then the rest of the time we were spending time with family and doing wedding stuff and all that. So,
right.
So I really haven't talked to Haley too much about my experience at Lagoon. Now
I've been holding out on me.
I know. I've talked it almost a whole year. That's sad to say. I do think it was like end of July.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, that's terrible. This is literally 10 months ago. Not let that happen again. I know.
Over here,
I know. All of our Lagoon listeners have stopped listening. They're like, he's never going to get to it. I am out of here.
This stupid podcast.
Just leading me on. Let's try not. I'll try to not put off a trip report this long anymore. Because, it took way too long to get this done. But anyway. So the way with trip reports, we usually have done them, and so we're just going to kind of follow the same format today. Usually talk about theming and atmosphere of the park, and then talk a little bit about the food, and then talk about the rides and specifically the coasters, and then I'll close by telling you how I rank the coasters at the park, and then we'll be done. Sound good?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, I did only spend one day at the park, so don't have a ton to say, not like some of the other trip reports we've done where, I spent multiple days at the park or, like King's Dominion, we did multiple days, Kings Island, we did multiple days, but I still think I've got a good enough amount to talk about. They have a good lineup of coasters, so there's plenty to talk about as far as the coasters are concerned. But, as far as atmosphere is concerned, the one thing I will say first of all, just to start off, because this kind of is as you're walking into the park, Lagoon is expensive.
Yeah, it is expensive.
Like once you actually get into the park, it's not too bad. Like all the lockers, first, a lot of rides require lockers. All of them are free though. All the lockers are free at the park. I don't know if if you rent a locker for the day, I don't know if it's free, but all the lockers, like, outside of the rides, are all completely free.
Okay.
So I do have to give kudos to Lagoon for that, because that's been one of my biggest complaints about Cedar Fair parks for a long time.
Right, because you've always said, just take it and
Just
put it into the
put
price.
it in the cost of the ticket.
Right.
Don't nickel and dime me. I would even prefer if parks put the cost of parking into the cost of the ticket, because then I just buy one ticket and that covers everything I need. It covers parking, and food is different, right? Because people might bring food, and some people want expensive food, some people want just the quick food. So food is fine. You don't need to include that. But everything that's a flat cost, like lockers and parking, just throw that into the cost of the ticket. So, But anyway, I digress. But yeah, so I do appreciate that the lockers were free, but man, the ticket to get into the park is really, really high. I'm gonna look it up. What's this year? So
like $80. Yeah.
Is $92.95 a ticket,
Really expensive.
which is crazy. But the reason it is because there's no competition. That's the thing about Lagoon that's really different from other parks that we've been to, is there's just absolutely no competition. The closest major amusement parks to Lagoon are like Las Vegas. Like, yeah, it's so far away.
I know, because there's the park in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho.
Yeah, but Coeur d'Alene to Salt Lake, that's like 10 hours. Like, it's so far.
Vegas is far too.
Yeah, I think Vegas is 6 hours from Salt Lake, something like that. So, I mean, it's really not that close. So, it's pretty crazy. I was looking to see where's there we go. I wanted to see. Yeah, look at this. So, Lagoon, $92.95 plus tax and fees. Cedar Point tickets are $49.99.
That's crazy.
So you're paying almost twice as much for Lagoon as you are for Cedar Point.
Yeah, the number one park.
Crazy, but it's competition, right? Because Cedar Point's got Kennywood to compete with, and Kings Island's not technically a competitor, but it's not far. And so, there's just, people have other options. When in Utah, you got Lagoon or nothing.
Yeah.
So that's unfortunate. I will say, if you are an ACE member, I don't know about other coaster clubs, but and again, I'm not sure because I went on this trip last year. But last year, ACE members got $25 off of Lagoon tickets as part of included with their membership. So I got a really nice discount on the ticket. Still basically a $75 ticket, but I did appreciate that's nice of Lagoon to be given a nice little perk to the ACE members that are coming to the park. Right. So I did appreciate that. But I mean, the park is really nice. Like, it's taken care of very well. I think one of the things I said to so just kind of talk about atmosphere now as you've gotten into the park. They do a really good job of like maintaining, like it's not just like you walk in and it's like a carnival, right? Like, because some parks are kind of like that, where like the park is flat and there's like no trees, but they've got lots of rides, but there's not really decorations or scenery or anything like that.
Yeah.
Lagoon is definitely not that way. Like, the park is flat. They've put it in a nice little spot where it's kind of in this valley, so the park is pretty much completely flat. You're not like walking up and down hills.
I appreciate.
Which I do appreciate that.
Yeah.
That's nice. But they've also planted tons of trees in the park.
Yeah. Which
makes it like really nice, especially because I was there on a hot summer day, and so there's plenty of shade, and it just makes the park look really nice too. Right. And so they have the park is kind of long and narrow.
Okay.
And they have a chairlift, or like they call it a sky ride. Also, I don't know exactly what they call it, but
kind of like the one at Cedar Point, right?
Yes, like the one at Cedar Point. Hershey Park has one. There's a lot of parks that have them, and it basically goes just from one end of the park to the other.
I've always appreciated that when I go to amusement parks, is when they have like some kind of transportation from one end of the park to the other.
Yeah.
Like, I just feel like it is almost like parks are aware, yes, you do a lot of walking when you go to a place. And so, like, if it's a train or
one of the sky rides, I definitely appreciate that. And I used the one at Lagoon. I used it probably 3 or 4 times, just bouncing from back and forth, taking pictures of coasters and getting content for our socials and stuff like that. So
right.
so, but like you were going up and over trees, and so like they're just trees everywhere. So like the park is very, very beautiful. They do a good job with the landscaping and with all these trees that they plant. And so another thing that I told, I think I mentioned this in our family group chat, is because I kind of sent updates throughout the day, is I said it felt like a park from like Roller Coaster Tycoon, because like there was like a lot of rides there that are kind of like older rides, not like old or broken down, but just kind of more retro rides, stuff that's like from like the 80s or 90s. And so it's stuff that, like, if you were playing the original Roller Coaster Tycoon back in the early 2000s, it's stuff that would be in the game.
That's
like they've
funny.
got an old Schwarzkopf looping coaster and a Schwarzkopf Jetstar coaster there that are older models, and then they have an old wooden coaster that's over 100 years old that we'll talk about.
That's
and
cool.
Then yeah, it's
like
pretty
the Jackrabbit.
Mm-hmm. It's not as old as Jackrabbit, but it's pretty close. And then there were some decorations that like reminded me of Roller Coaster Tycoon. And then like with the chairlift going from one side to the other,
maybe that's how they designed the park.
Maybe, like, so it just kind of felt like that, like just kind of an older charm to the park that it had, less so than like
someone sat down to play in Utah and was like, my park is pretty dang good. I'm gonna make it.
The only problem is Lagoon's been, like I said, they have a coaster that's over 100 years old, so it's been
there longer than the roller coaster.
Yeah, but yeah, I don't know. It felt different than we've been doing a lot of Cedar Fair parks lately, and this year we just did a couple of, the first SeaWorld parks we've been to, and just kind of had a different feel. I don't know that I can quite put my finger on exactly what it is.
Well, and I can't help you.
No, because you weren't there, so. But I did like it, it kind of, and that is one thing that I really like about privately owned parks, like a Hershey Park, or like, I guess those might be the only two, like, Kennywood. Well, Kennywood's technically part of a chain.
Is it?
Technically, so.
Technically.
I mean, it's a very small chain, so. But I don't know. But like, or Knoebels, that's one we haven't been to, but that's one that I'm pretty sure has this same kind of charm. Is like when it's just you own one park, you can just kind of do whatever you want with that. Like you don't have to worry about corporate policies or trying to, you won't buy a clone that another park has because it's cheaper. Like you won't build the same rides as like some of the other. It's just you have one park, so you manage it the way you see fit. And so it feels different from any other park because there's no, you don't have sister parks that are similar. So that's kind of how Hershey Park feels to me too, where Hershey Park is like one of the best parks in the country just because they really just pour the money into having awesome roller coasters, right?
Yeah.
And so, they don't spend a lot on theming per se, and like a Disney or a, Universal does. But that's not what Hershey's chosen to do. They've just chosen to say, we're going to have some of the best roller coasters in the country.
Yeah.
And then we're going to maintain the old ones that we have really well.
I think they've succeeded at
They
it
really
too.
have. I mean, that's why Hershey Park, was, in my mind, is like top 5 in the country. They're just very good at that. And so...
They're killing it.
They are. And so... I think there's advantages to having just one park to worry about as opposed to a whole chain. So... Anyway, I don't know if any of that made sense. Like I said, I can't quite put my finger on the charm and the atmosphere that the park had, but it was cool. So, yeah, it's a really nice atmosphere. And I will say this is kind of, I'll use this as a transition into the food because this kind of touches on atmosphere and food. So they have one, I think just one sit down restaurant there. Oh, one other thing I'll mention before I get to the food. The park also has, like, the front half of the park is where all the attractions and stuff are. And then the back half of the park is a bunch of pavilions and picnic grounds.
I remember you telling me
which
about this.
is
Yeah.
that is so unique to Lagoon. Like, I've never heard of any other parks that have something like that. I'm sure there are, but
Well,
and it's nice because
that you've not been to Idlewild, but Idlewild's very similar. They have tons and tons of pavilions that you just like can either rent out for parties or you like even just go and have your lunch there. Like, there's not a lot of places to eat at Idlewild now that I think about it, because they just have your pavilion that people they just almost expect it for you to bring your own food.
Yeah, and so Lagoon obviously lets you bring in your own food. Which is nice, people that don't want to spend money on the
right, because they just spent $100 on a ticket.
Exactly. And so you can just bring in a bunch of food, and then you can go eat at one of the pavilions, and you have to rent it out, but I don't think it costs money. I think you just have to reserve it, if that makes sense. And so, but one thing that's nice about that is if you just need a break from the crowds, you can kind of work your way towards the back of the park and just find an empty pavilion just to kind of sit down and just relax back there. And it's really quiet back there, which is really nice. So,
well, as someone too that is more aware of sensory issues, like, I think that's nice to always have like a spot in a park that's like sensory friendly.
Right.
So, like, I know that Disney has places like that, and when we went to SeaWorld recently, they had like a specific building for people that have sensory issues.
Right.
Which I thought was cool.
Yeah. So, and then kind of leading into the food here, they have the one sit-down restaurant that's called, I think it's just called the Beer Garden.
The Beer Garden?
Except it's like, it's spelt the way they do in Germany. It's like Biergarten. The Lagoon website is not one of my favorite websites, I will say that.
Don't say that.
I'm sorry.
They're listening.
I'm sorry. But, like, I'm trying to find the food on here right now, and I can't find it. So, that should be pretty easy to find. Park info, refreshments, I guess is where that's going to be at. There we go. Yeah, Lagoon Biergarten restaurants. So it's the only place in Lagoon that they serve alcohol. So that's one thing is, if you're, so I know some people that matters to them is like how much alcohol there is at a park. And so this is the only place that they serve it. But the other thing that's nice is like, it's completely separate from, like, it's not like a restaurant like in the middle of the park. It's towards the front of the park, and there's like actually an entrance into that area, but it's not like you walk in the front door of the restaurant. You like walk in, and I think there's a bar and 2 restaurants, and then there's just like this whole little plaza that's like themed to look like
Germany,
like old school Germany.
That's cool. I would have liked that.
It's really it kind of
cultural based.
Yeah, it very much feels like a kind of an Epcot type of thing, where it's like they just have this little area
I'm
that's
always down for some Epcot.
Where it's just very it's themed to look like it's from Germany, but also it's just really quiet back there. Now that's probably dependent on what time of day you go, because if you go during lunch or during dinner, it's really crazy. I had an early dinner at like 4 so that I could, beat the rush.
Right.
And I went out there, and there was like a couple dozen people throughout the whole plaza and the restaurant and everything. And so it was just super chill back there. Anyway, and the food was really good too.
Really?
Yeah, it was very, very good. What
did you get?
So that's the problem with being 10 months removed, is I don't remember, and they don't have a menu here for me to look at, so I can't even look and say, oh yeah, that's what I had. So all I can tell you is I remember sitting down and eating and being like, oh, okay. Like, sometimes that happens with amusement park food, that you're like, okay, I agree. I'm just looking to, fill my belly and, move on with my day. And sometimes you get something and you're just like, oh, okay.
Yeah, like when we went to, what's that called? Was it King's Dominion or King's Island that had that like really yummy like shrimp?
It was King's Dominion. It was oh gosh, we talked about it in our trip report.
Right.
It's towards the I even remember where it's at. It's when you walk in through the entrance, if you go down the right side of the reflection pool, it's like at the very end of the row on the right side there. I can't remember what it's called, but
I don't remember what it's called either, but they had like this really good shrimp.
The grain grill, something like that. Anyway,
it was something grill, but it was
super
like,
good.
Yeah, and like the chef was awesome. Like for like all my food allergies that I have, like I was like, oh my gosh, yes please.
So I've definitely had experiences like that where I'm just kind of getting something to get something, and then I'm like, oh okay. So definitely had that experience with the beer garden restaurant. So, and now I had lunch somewhere, but the rest of these, it doesn't actually list the restaurants one by one. It like does it by area, and I don't even remember which area of the park I was in. This is very difficult to figure out. All I remember, it was over by Colossus is where I got the food at. So, but none of these restaurant names are striking a chord.
Oh, sorry. I feel like I'm gonna sneeze. Sorry.
Oh.
You ever have that feeling in your nose?
Yep, I definitely. Look at the light. Let me look at the light. It'll make you sneeze. Oh, it didn't work.
No, it didn't work.
Oh, that's a bummer that I can't remember what the other place was.
It's a bummer that I can't sneeze.
I'm trying to. I have like this memory of it being like a chicken place, but like they had different flavors that you could get. Oh man, I remember it being good too, but I like none of these restaurant names are striking a. Oh, maybe if I use the park map, maybe. Oh wait, I forgot the park map is not very very helpful. It's
that's right.
it's this
You've
very
pulled this up before and showed me.
Yeah, it's like it's a very artistic park map, which is cool, but it's not like super helpful if you're trying to find exactly where something is at.
Right.
So I told Haley at the time when because I kept the park map because I thought it was interesting, but I told her at the time, I was like, this is something I would like as a poster to like put on a wall.
Right.
It's not what I want in a park map. Because it's just, it's tricky.
Read.
And like, see, it doesn't even have the restaurants on here. It has, so like, I know it was right here. No, here. It was this one right here up by Colossus and Wild Mouse.
See, and that's funny that they have like a symbol for
Yeah, so there's
it,
a symbol. I know that's where I ate, but I don't remember what it was called or what they had. So anyway, if you're looking for something, and I recommend whatever that restaurant is that's by Wild Mouse and Colossus.
That one. That's
that
the
one.
one.
That's so frustrating that I can't figure out what the name of the restaurant was. So anyway, it was very good. So from the south side, I feel like it was at the south end of the park here. Zeppy South, teriyaki sticks. See, like none of these are
ringing a bell.
Yeah, exactly. So I really don't know. Anyway,
it's a bummer that you can't remember.
Yep, that's all right. Beer garden, I will say, beer garden is the highlight of the food at Lagoon. So if you're looking for like the best food at the park and you want to sit down, and you'll pay a little bit more because it's a sit-down restaurant. Well, to be fair, it is a sit-down restaurant, but you still go up to the counter and order. It's not like they come and take your order. So
kind of
it's still. I think it would still qualify as quote-unquote quick service. But it's a little nicer than just like a food stand. So
I have a place like that in King's Island, I want to say, and they were like where you go up to the counter, and like there was a couple different places that you could choose from, and then like you like go and sit down. It was like the only sit down place that was inside. It felt like.
I'm trying to remember. We spent 3 days at Kings Island, so it's kind of all a blur.
Yeah.
Anyway, so. Well, with that, I know that wasn't a whole lot on food, but I only ate twice while I was there, and one of them I can't figure out which one it was. So, but
Yeah.
I will tell you, I can remember everything about the roller coasters because that's really why we're there, or really why I'm there, I should say.
You've got
so,
a great memory when it comes to that stuff.
I keep track of the coasters, so let's talk about the coasters. Now, the way we do this is start with, we use the coaster bot rankings, and we start from the bottom and work our way up. So this isn't my ranking, this is just how people in general rank them, and then after we've talked about all the coasters, I'll give you my final ranking.
Yeah.
Sound good?
Yep.
Okay. So the first one is the Bat, and I'm actually, since you weren't there with me, I'm going to pull these up on RCDB just so that you can see what they look like for your benefit. So obviously if you're listening at home, you'll have to go and look these up yourself, but
please pause.
there
Please
you go.
Pause.
All right, we're all set. So there's the Bat.
Oh,
so
kind of like it's a hanging coaster. Isn't that like just the one that we like rode at Kings Island?
yes, there's one. This is this exact same model as so the one
really
at
familiar.
yeah, so the one at Kings Island at the time that we went, it was called Flying Ace Aerial Chase. It's been renamed this season as part of their new Camp Snoopy expansion and the Boomerang coaster that's opening next to it. But but yes, same exact model as that one. And I will say, not bad. I mean, you know, I think if on my ranking here, I rank it below. Yeah, I rank it just below Flying Ace Aerial Chase, but I rank it above Kitty Hawk, which is another model of this that I rode at Carowinds. So it's out of the 3 of these that I've been on, it's 2 out of 3. So so it was. I mean, these Vekoma suspended family coasters, they're good, but they're, I don't know. Well, some of them are really good, like Dragonflyer at Dollywood.
Yeah.
Was a lot of fun. That one's really good, but that one's also a lot newer. This one was built in 2005. Where Dragonflyer opened in 2018, I want to say. Maybe later than that. But so I feel like these don't age great, and so they kind of get bumpy the older they get. And so that it definitely had, you know, the typical bumpiness that these suspended family coasters can get over time. I will also say it's very strange. This never happened to me on a coaster before, but my foot hit a leaf, you fly over the first turn, like flies over some trees, and there was one branch with like a little leaf on it that was just sticking up far enough for my foot to hit it. But
it's kind of scary.
It's a little odd, but it wasn't like a branch, you know. It's just like a leaf with a tiny little twig or whatever.
Like
but
that should be trimmed down.
So I don't know if maybe they, you know, trimming schedule was the day after I got, you know, I was there. But
still, like that's
I've
nerve-wracking.
never had that experience on a coaster. So, and it was the first drop, and so it's like, you know, we probably weren't even going 10 miles an hour when it happened, but it was just kind of funny.
Still, I don't know, that would make me nervous. That would make me really nervous, honestly.
So, I don't know, not too much more to say other than that. I'm trying to go through these pictures here, see if there's anything else I wanted to talk about.
Welcome to the Bat.
Welcome to the Bat. So, yeah, it was a decent little ride. So, actually, looking at this, it might have, if that's the first drop, it may have been later in the coaster that I hit my foot on because I think it's this turn right here that these trees back behind it is where I hit my foot on a leaf. But anyway, there you go.
Darn leaf. That's what you remember.
That leaf is the most memorable part of the ride. I don't know what that says, but this is a good example though, just how many trees there are in the park. Like you can see, they're just, you know, they've gotten planted all over. So it doesn't look like you're in Utah for sure, because there's no trees in the Salt Lake Valley.
Yeah.
So they've definitely made a specific effort to bring in more trees into the park, which I appreciate. So. All right. Next up is that's the wrong spot. Next up, we have Wild Mouse. So here's the thing. Lagoon, I had a great time at your park, so take
Take this with a grain of
Take
salt.
this with a grain of salt. I don't I don't like being mean. But I have to be honest when I say that this was the worst roller coaster I've ever been on.
Even worse than the little one that you just went on,
Yes,
Parker?
yes.
Really?
It was so painful. It hurt so bad. So here's what we're dealing with. It's a typical Wild Mouse coaster, right? Now, so this is a Mauer Wild Mouse, which I've never been on Mauer's version of the Wild Mouse coaster. I've been on Mock Rides. I've been on Zamperla. I've been on...
So maybe it's not Lagoon's fault. Maybe it's the...
It very well just could be the manufacturer for sure. And I mean, it was built in 98, so it's
older.
It's an older Wild Mouse. But so what we're dealing with here's the situation. So you can see it seats 4, but it has like one lap bar that like comes down. It's like one bar in the middle, and then it splits off into 2 lap bars. On one on each side. Okay. So it's like they call it a T-shaped crossbar.
Okay.
Makes sense?
Yeah.
So obviously, since I'm sitting by myself, I have to scooch over to one side and pull that lap bar down, and it just was a really tight fit, which is fine. I understand. I'm a bit of a bigger guy, so that happens quite frequently on coasters. But man, some of these turns were just so janky that it was slamming my ribs up against the side of the car.
Maybe I shouldn't take you on the Wild Mouse at Idlewild then. It's very similar. What similar situation.
I gotta find out now what brand of Wild Mouse is that.
I remember even being a kid and being slammed.
I have to do the one at Idlewild though, because it's
one of
but it's one of a kind, because it's oh, they're building a roller coaster at Idlewild right now?
What?
How did I not know that?
No way.
Is that a Perla family coaster? Oh. Oh, they bought it from another park.
Oh.
Okay. Yeah, it's just a little, very small Zamperla family. It's basically a kiddie coaster. Yeah, okay. So it's the same model as Grand Exposition Coaster at Silver Dollar City. So. Oh. Okay. Anyway. Okay, I gotta look at this though. Wild Mouse. So this one's by Vekoma, so it is a different model. So
I still remember being totally. Yeah. I did not like it.
But I've got to ride this one because it's got the unique tilted lift hill, and have I told you why that is?
No, but I do remember the tilted lift hill.
Yeah,
and. That ride's janky, man.
when we go to Idlewild, I'll tell you the story behind that lift hill. So there you go. I could knock off a couple coaster credits there.
Yeah, so. It's not very much.
Nope, just the Wild Mouse and the old wooden coaster they got there. Rolo coaster. It's an interesting name. So, but anyway, yeah. So the Wild Mouse. I mean. I specifically remember this turn right here, because this turn here picking up a lot of speed, but it's still no banking on the turns, which, that's typical Wild Mouse. But I just remember it was so, I was slamming my ribs into the side of the coaster car. And then on the other side, I was, running into that T-shaped crossbar. So it just, it was
Did
not.
Did you have bruise marks?
No, it wasn't that bad, but it was just I couldn't enjoy the ride because I was basically defending myself from getting beat up by the coaster, and that's never a good time. So I don't know. Like I said, it's really not so much on Lagoon as it is on the manufacturer. I've never been on this. Is my first Mauer Wild Mouse that I've been on, so maybe they're all like that. Maybe I need to make a list of where these are at and prepare myself.
Prepare yourself.
But,
maybe get padding or something.
Yeah, it's not the most painful coaster experience I've had, but the problem is the most painful experience I had was Grizzly at King's Dominion. But since that happened, they retracked and refurbed Grizzly. So I can't comfortably say that Grizzly's the worst coaster I've been on, because now it's better than. I could say Old Grizzly is the worst coaster I've been on, but
okay.
So, but they've refurbed it since then, so it's better. Anyway, so there you go. There's Wild Mouse at Lagoon.
You haven't been on the new Grizzly yet.
I haven't. So I was thinking about when we go back to King's Dominion, because they're rumored to open a new wing coaster next year, but
to go for their anniversary.
We wanted to, but that's next year.
Oh yeah.
So I don't know about that. We'll see. So
there's a lot we have next year.
Yeah, well, and we've talked about we still really haven't done any of the Six Flags parks, so there's a lot that we want to do.
There's a lot. We have a list.
Yeah. So next on the list is Bombora, which is this fun little family coaster.
That name.
So this one, I would have to say, I don't know that I can call this coaster the biggest surprise of my trip, but it was definitely a surprise because. So a couple things are going on here. So Bombora was built in-house. So it was built by the park. They didn't outsource it to another company like, most. That's another thing. Lagoon is the last 3 coasters they've built, or 3 of the last 4, something like that. They've all just built it themselves. They've said
crazy.
They've said we're done working with coaster manufacturers. We're just going to do this on our own. And that's what they've done for Bombora, Cannibal, and their most recent coaster, Primordial. All been completely in-house designed and constructed, and completely by themselves.
I didn't think that was a thing. But... Huh.
Yep, they're really the only park, at least in the States, that is consistently doing that. There's other parks that have done it, like Knoebels. When they built Flying Turns, they built that one from scratch without any other help. But it's really not something that other parks are doing. So, which is kind of fascinating. So
yeah, that is fascinating.
But this coaster caught me off guard for a couple reasons. Number one, it has onboard audio, which just makes it fun. It was playing like it's in the kiddie section of the park, but it's a little bit more substantial than your typical kid coaster. It's only 1,040 feet, but 31 miles per hour. But I mean that's bigger than just like your typical
faster
kiddie coaster.
Something that I would take Parker on.
Right. Well, I think Parker could do okay on this because it's slower than like a Slinky Dog Dash or a Seven Dwarfs Mine Train.
I guess that's important.
But it's bigger and faster than like what I took him on Saturday, that little kiddie coaster at Fast Lane. So it's like in between. I guess we should
mention, because last time we talked about Parker, he didn't ride anything.
That's true, but then we took him to Disney, and we'll do a Disney trip report pretty soon here. But he got his coaster credits up to 5. Went on Slinky Dog Dash and Seven Dwarfs Mine Train at Disney World. So
our little roller coaster buddy finally coming into his own.
So that was pretty exciting. So yeah, I think Parker could do this one, but it was very smooth. Not it was a little bumpy, but not bad for 13-year-old coaster at the time.
Right.
And then the other thing that I loved is look at these trains.
Oh, those are cool.
These got to be like top 5 favorite coaster trains that I've seen. And it's just on this little coaster at Lagoon. But they really put in the effort to just like...
That's a lot of detail for trains.
Yes, right? And so...
I like those.
It just was... And then it was... The restraints were super comfortable, too. Like, I was like... Can Lagoon start making these for other parks? Like, this is great. Like, it was just pretty awesome. Now, I will say, since then, I've been on Big Bear Mountain, which also has onboard audio and very comfortable restraints. So Vekoma is very capable of doing family coasters too. So I don't know. But yeah,
all these coasters I haven't been on.
I know. We're getting there.
We're getting there.
So yeah, I don't have too much more to say other than that. I mean, there's it's a small family coaster, so not much more to say. But just I don't know. It's impressive to see the park put in extra effort where they probably really didn't need to. If they didn't have onboard audio on it, kids probably wouldn't notice. If they just had basic blue trains with no designs on them, kids wouldn't notice. But just like the park had enough pride to just say, hey, we're going to make these look awesome, and we're gonna put onboard audio, and it was playing like Beach Boys music, like it was like
fun.
Yeah, it was just a fun time. And I made a post about this coaster a few weeks ago because I was saying that, like, not, especially in this day and age where, this was built in 2011, but the trend in the industry right now is all about family coasters, right? That's what everyone's building.
Right.
We've got Holiday World and Kings Island and Silver Dollar City and Knott's Berry Farm all building family coasters this year. Last year, Dollywood built one, Six Flags St. Louis built one. So it's just, family coasters are just popping up all over the place.
Right.
And so I made this post just talking about Bombora and how you have to find, as an enthusiast, you have to be able to enjoy the family coasters too, in my opinion.
Right.
And I think some enthusiasts struggle with that. Like, it's like they only are able to enjoy the Steel Vengeance and Mavericks and the Giga coasters, like the stuff that's super intense and like knocks your face off.
Like, you go and like look at the Google reviews for this, and it's like not intense, not worth your time, yada yada yada. And it's like, no, it's just a family coaster. Yeah, it's serving a different purpose. It's meant for you and your kids to ride together.
Yeah, and I've always felt that, like, and this is life advice here on the Airtime Traveler podcast, but you got to find something positive in everything that you're doing, right? Yes. And like in this instance, it's like, okay, yeah, it's a small family coaster, but like these trains look great, and like the music is fun. Like, it's just, you're able to find ways to enjoy this coaster, even though it's not the bigger ones that we're going to talk about in a few minutes here. But anyway, get off my soapbox there.
Right,
but
get off your soapbox.
It was a fun coaster. It was a good time. So, all right, so that's Bombora. Next up is Jetstar 2, which we're going to skip because I wasn't able to ride it, because you can't ride it as a single rider.
No.
Yep.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and I understand why. So, because here, if we pull it up here. So, the reason why is because they're like these toboggan-style trains that are on it.
Oh.
And
so you have to, like...
You have to have... That's the problem, right? Is like, I could have gone on it with a stranger, but I don't really feel like sitting in a stranger's lap or having a stranger sit in my lap. So...
Why not? Get to know someone.
That's a little too well, in my opinion. So I was not about that. So I just said, you know what? When I take Haley back sometime, she and I can ride this one, and we'll call it good. So which was a bummer because it looks fun, but it's one of these old Schwarzkopf Jetstar coasters, and so it looked like a good time, and it was down for. So
we'll have our listeners.
Not only was it only single rider, but it was down for like half the day that I was there too. So I was having some issues, but
stinky situation.
So, but did not get to ride Jetstar 2, unfortunately. So, let's move on to the next one, which is the Spider. Which,
do we have to talk about this?
Do they have a picture of the sign here?
Oh my gosh.
Look at this.
Oh.
You have to walk under that to get to the ride. And there's like water dripping from the fangs. Like,
oh, I can't. So we went to that little aquarium Blue Zoo like a couple days ago, like with my family. Oh no, it wasn't that. We came home the other night, and you found a spider that was huge, and I'm like,
that wasn't that big.
I was gagging. I was literally gagging.
Haley
and,
can't stand spiders.
Almost threw up. It was terrible. I was like, I can't do them.
Yeah. So this is the exact same model as Laugh Track at Hershey Park.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so
well, that would have been fun. But
yeah, it's
I'll
just
close my eyes.
Well, and once you get on the ride, you can see it's basically just plopped down in the parking lot almost. Like, there's not really, it's just kind of. Now, I will say, while it is a quote-unquote parking lot coaster, as you can see here, I will say they did put some extra effort in to make the station really nicely themed. Okay. So you can see I saw a picture here a second ago. So this is like the actual entrance to the ride, so you can see like these nice like spider web lanterns that they built
But
for
it's
it.
like
So
like on a castle.
Mhm.
Is there a reason for that?
I think they were just kind of going for like a gothic theme.
Okay.
So, but also there's this sign that faces towards the parking lot that I noticed. Or
What's
actually,
it
no.
say?
This might not be the. Actually, I think this is still part of the park. I think starting here is the parking lot. I'm confused because I went all around taking pictures of the rides. I went out in the parking lot and
Oh,
everything,
that's right.
and so
Yeah, I remember.
because I do that because I'm weird. There's not a lot of people out in the parking lot taking pictures. I will say that. Like, yeah,
So
it's not.
you
There's
got
two.
some great shots because of
I
it.
sure did, especially of roller coaster. That one goes out into the parking lot. So anyway, but
You were very proud of yourself, and I.
well, the one that I really was Holiday World. I went out to like there's like a food pavilion out by the parking lot that like you can reserve to like just eat, have a picnic out there or whatever.
Right.
And I'm like walking around the fence line just trying to get good shots of the Raven over there and stuff. And then like I went into the water.
Shame.
I'm like walking through the water slide line so that I can get better pictures of the legend. So I'm like with all these people in their swimsuits and I'm still in my full street clothes. Like good times. So do what you got to do for the pictures, right?
Do it for the podcast.
For the content. So, but yeah. So they did a pretty good job with the theming of the ride, and it was running pretty good. Like I sat with I ended up having a conversation with a lady that was there with. It was her and her two daughters, and so they were trying to decide how they were because it's 4 seats, right?
Right.
And so I ended up sitting with her, and then the 2 girls sat on the other side, which meant that the weight was off. So we were spinning like crazy because the 2 adults were on one side and the kids were on the other side. So, but yeah, so it was
that
a
would
good
have
time.
been fun though, like the spinning.
Yeah, I enjoyed it more than I thought it would. Not as much as Laugh Track because Laugh Track, with it being inside, 1, it has better theming, and 2, it's glossy smooth, which I can't say about this one, but it was a good time. So
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. Next is Roller Coaster, which has to be the least imaginative name ever for a roller coaster. But it did open in 1921, so I mean, it was a different time back then. The roller coaster names were
What
not.
should we name this
So
one?
I will say
Roller
everyone
coaster.
in Utah, everyone in the Salt Lake Valley there refers to it as the white roller coaster.
Huh.
Which that's because this is what it used to look like. So this is there's actually not a date on this, but anyway, this is what it used to look like. And it was all painted white. This is what it looks like nowadays. The paint's just kind of faded, and they have chosen not to repaint it. But yeah, so that's what it looks like now. It just natural wood color. But it used to be painted white, and so it's always referred to as the white roller coaster by locals, and so
I like that better.
the white roller coaster.
I do. I actually like that better.
I don't know why they don't just name it that, but anyway.
That's funny.
At this point, when the coaster's over 100 years old, it's kind of hard to
Change a
rename
name,
it. So
right.
it's kind of like you want to keep as much of the history as you can. So,
and we're all about the history.
that's
here.
right. That's what what we're about here. This coaster does have an Ace Roller Coaster Landmark Award.
That's
So,
cool.
yep, it was given to them in 2005. So it's like I said, built in 1921. So it's 103 years old, which is crazy. So. That's whenever a park is able to do that, that's impressive. Like, it doesn't matter,
Keep a coaster that long.
regardless of how thrilling or intense or how good the airtime is on the ride. I could care less because I'm just happy that the park is willing to put in the effort to maintain the ride and keep it there for as long as they have. So, because a lot of parks don't do that. A lot of parks are like, oh, it's 40 years old and getting rough, and just tear it down and build something else. So whenever the park is like willing to maintain the history of a ride like this, that's deserves the attention it gets. So
I agree. I'm not a huge fan of Jackrabbit, but I love that it's still there. That it's like such a historic part of home, basically.
Yeah,
So.
for sure. So I will say the ride isn't like it didn't knock my socks off. I didn't get like a ton of airtime, and it was fairly bumpy. So I wouldn't classify it as like a Jackrabbit or, a Comet at Hershey Park, which are some other older wooden coasters that I really like. But, I mean, it was decent for what it is. They have put, in 2018, they put new trains on it. Like, they're modern GCI trains. So, like the trains that are on, like, Mystic Timbers at Kings Island.
Ooh.
So, the trains are really nice. So they're not like the old PTC trains, which I'm not crazy about. So they're much more comfortable than, some of the older wooden coasters that have those PTC trains. So I will give it credit for that. But yeah, it was a nice solid ride. That's what I'll say about roller coasters. So
nice solid ride.
Yep.
That's the just.
That's,
go leave your Google.
There's
review.
my Google review. 4 stars. Nice solid ride. All right, let's talk the 3 big ones. Okay? Mm-hmm. So first we've got Colossus. I just call it Colossus, but the full name is Colossus the Fire Dragon. I'm not sure why it came from the German fair circuit, so I don't know if that's just what it was named in Germany and then they just kind of stuck with it. So, I don't know, but I just call it Colossus. But this was my biggest surprise from the trip, is how much I enjoyed this coaster.
Okay.
Now, I've been on other Schwarzkopf looping coasters like Super Duper Looper, and there's another one I've been on. Actually, when I rode this, Super Duper Looper may have been the only other one I've been on, which Super Duper Looper is fine. It's nothing crazy. I mean, it just has the one loop, and then it kind of meanders around in the woods and as it makes its way back to the station. So, but I had never been on one of these portable Schwarzkopf coasters, which they're designed. I'm trying to. Can we get a good overhead view? Not really. I mean, they're designed so you can see that's the whole layout of the coaster. They were designed to be like you could easily transport the coaster, like if it was on a fair or carnival.
Yeah.
But then amusement, like they were so popular that amusement parks would just buy them as permanent installations too. So like there's this one here. I rode another one at Busch Gardens Tampa a few weeks ago. There's one at Frontier City in Oklahoma. So there's a few parks that have just bought these and then kept them because they're easy to transport, but they're also just a good ride. And so they just, kept them as permanent installations.
Okay, I have
the
a
parks
question
too.
for you.
Yes.
Because I know that this is coming to P Ridge, but there's like a carnival that's coming to P Ridge. Will you ride the coasters? Because there's probably going to be like travel roller coasters there, and I'm like, wonder if Nathan will get on them because I know how you feel about carny coasters.
Yeah,
But it's like, is it worth the credit?
State Fair, I will ride State Fair coasters because there's a little bit more money involved there. Mm-hmm. County Fair starts to get a little more. Well,
and this isn't even county. This is.
And carnivals, I really don't like. That starts to make me nervous. The smaller the ride is, the more likely I am to ride it.
Yeah, because I feel like it's a little bit less dangerous.
Yeah, so if it's like a kiddie coaster, I mean, I probably would ride it if Parker wanted to. Right. Now, I know it's going to be bumpy as all get out, but I probably would go on a kiddie coaster. So as long as when I get on it, because I've been on enough coasters now to know what the safety restraint should look and feel like. And so as long as
tie a rope to me.
Yes, well that's what I always come back to is when we went to there was like the Fireman's Festival that we went to in Pennsylvania.
Like and it was like
and we put Parker on this little flat ride there and it was super slow, so it wasn't that big of a deal. But literally the restraint was just a rope that they had tied in place of where the seatbelt used to be. And I'm like, there's no way that is passing inspections that way. So that's why I don't trust carnival rides and stuff like that. So anyway, but yeah.
Yeah.
So, but when they put them at the parks like this, they're well maintained, and obviously because it's at a major amusement park, they have to follow through with maintenance schedules and inspections and stuff like that. Right. So
I think what makes me nervous too is like whenever like I don't know, like you've seen so many videos too of like carnival rides like falling over, like literally falling over, and I'm like, no.
It doesn't happen that often, but surely happens more at carnivals than at amusement parks.
So makes me so nervous.
Yeah. So, but yeah, this ride was surprisingly smooth for its age.
Okay.
I mean, it's not like a B&M coaster that's like smooth as glass, but like for a coaster that was built in 1983, pretty smooth for for that age, for over 40 years old.
Right.
And super intense loops, which I knew was a thing because Super Duper Looper has a really intense loop, and then the rest of the layouts kind of just does its own thing. But these Schwarzkopf looping coasters, like they just, I don't know why the loops are more intense on those models, but just really pushing you into your seat, the G-forces that you feel as you're going through those loops, and especially in the front row. So, because you're kind of hitting that loop at top speed as you get to the bottom of the hill. So, so yeah, a lot of fun. I rode this one.
I wonder if the back would be any different because of the airtime. Like if the airtime would be different than the G's.
Yeah, I don't know. So, I rode this one probably 3 or 4 times. I think this was the coaster I rode the most that day. One reason being, it doesn't have as long of a line as some of the other coasters.
Right.
But also I just enjoyed it. So it was so easy to take pictures of this coaster too, because the line goes up and over and under one part of the coaster.
Oh, fun.
And so it literally like just passes like right overhead. So you can just get like a really good snap of that. And then,
yeah, and you like angles like that. You've gotten some of your best pictures with angles like that, I feel like.
Yeah. Some of my best pictures I've ever taken were of this coaster, I think. So yeah, it was just a lot of fun. So I really enjoyed it. And also, I don't know if all the Schwarzkopf coasters are like this, but it just has a lap bar, which when you're on a looping coaster makes all the difference. Like, that just means no matter how rough it is, like you're not banging your head or your shoulders against anything. So it makes it more enjoyable. So anyway, so a lot of fun, and made its way into where, as of right now, where is it ranked? Let's see. Oh, I know it's on here somewhere. Fell out of my top 50 as of going to SeaWorld and Busch Gardens, but before that, it was in my top 50, which was surprising to me. I did not expect that. So
yeah, that's cool.
Good time. All right, let's talk about Wicked. Now, this one is super interesting. It's the only vertical launch coaster in North America. So that makes it a super unique coaster, obviously.
I feel like they have a lot of those at Lagoon. Like you've talked about how unique some of their coasters were.
It's such an interesting park for that reason. Like, just especially now that they're building all their own stuff, like, they can kind of just do whatever the heck they want.
Again, it's like Roller Coaster Tycoon.
Yeah,
someone said, I'm going to build my own roller coaster.
I'm going to build a vertical launch coaster.
Well, I feel like they're like, you know what? This is my personal Roller Coaster Tycoon game. And I just get to do whatever I want with it.
Yeah, what you gotta do. So, but yeah, it's the launch is a lot of fun. It's super different from any other launch I've experienced. Obviously, it's so different to be facing on your back, looking straight up and feeling the G-forces. Like a rocket launch almost.
I don't know how I feel about that.
So so there's 2 launches technically. It launches you normal, and then you go up, and then once you hit, you can actually see where the launch starts again, is when you hit these white fins right there, and then it starts launching you back up. And then you go up and over the top hat, you go from straight up right back down to straight down. And
that's crazy.
Yeah. It's an interesting ride.
Was it intense?
I mean, it's not super intense. I mean, it's not like Storm Runner, Powder Keg, you know, it's not like that level of intensity. But it was more just a unique feeling to be being pushed back into your seat, but also looking straight up instead of like looking, you know, at the horizon, so to speak. So now, the thing is, I really enjoyed that part of the ride, but the rest of the ride, and this is something I'm still trying to figure out, is because I've heard people say that this coaster is like the smoothest one in the park. But man, I rode it 2 times and I felt like it was so bumpy. Like, you know, just like it surprised me how bumpy it was. And so
because you hear one thing and you're expecting,
yeah, it was super weird. And so I don't know if it was just having a bad day when I was there, but
I guess roller coasters can have bad days too.
but, didn't sleep good that night, or I don't know, but it was just it was very rough and kind of uncomfortable on my first ride because of that. The second one wasn't as bad, but still very bumpy. And the first half of the layout is really good because you do that, you know, you do that launch, go into this vertical drop, go into an overbank turn, and then into a 0G roll. And then it turns back around and goes into this brake run that slows it way down. And then after that, you just kind of meander through some turns and then make your way back to the station. So the second half of the layout's kind of boring too. So, I don't know. I didn't enjoy this one as much as I thought I would. I obviously will still ride it again and again,
right.
But I just kind of expected more from it, so to speak. So,
right.
You know, I think I expected, I don't know, because it's a one-of-a-kind coaster, I was kind of excited about that. And then that one moment is good, but then the rest of the ride was just kind of meh.
Yeah.
So, but
well, it's a bummer.
Yeah, but still a good ride. So, and then let's talk about the big one. I will say, I'm not talking about Primordial because it wasn't open yet, unfortunately. So I was there in July, and I don't think Primordial opened until November. When did Primordial open?
That's a bummer.
It says September, but I think September was like pass holder previews or something like that. I don't think it opened to the public until, I guess, yeah, it couldn't have been November. It would have been way too cold in November, so.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I have not been on Primordial, unfortunately, but sometime in the future we'll get on that one. But the big one at Lagoon.
Colin and Charlie.
Yeah, we can go back out to Utah at some point. So the big one at Lagoon is Cannibal. Now, this is the one I was most excited for. Obviously, this is
the big one.
This is the big coaster. This is the one that everybody talks about. It's the one that, you know, if you're a coaster enthusiast, you go to Lagoon to ride Cannibal. Like, the rest of the rides are great, but this is the one that's like top 25 in the country for some people. Like, one of the best coasters in the country. So, I had high expectations for Cannibal.
Yeah, of course you did.
Of course I did, because everyone raves about it. And I've been on coasters with beyond vertical drops before. I've been on Fahrenheit at Hershey Park and Hang Time at Knott's Berry Farm, and I think one or two others. But this is obviously a different animal. You know, this is, I mean, just looking at this drop is crazy.
I don't know. That would make me so nervous.
So a couple stats if you're not familiar with Cannibal. A couple things. So first of all, built completely in-house. It's 208 feet tall, 70 miles per hour with 3 inversions. But the first drop, so it's a 200-foot first drop, but it has a beyond vertical drop of 116 degrees.
Oh.
Which is just unreal.
No.
It is, at the time that it opened in 2015, it was the steepest drop in the world, I'm pretty sure. I know it was the steepest drop in North America. I just can't remember if it was just North America or if it was the whole world. But record-breaking when it opened for sure. Since then, that record's been broken. But still unbelievable.
Yeah,
and then,
that's nuts.
So, yeah, it's a crazy ride. So, couple things that make the ride super interesting. First of all, it has an elevator lift. So when you so you pull out of the station's like down here, and you make this right turn, and then you get to the bottom of the tower, and the tower actually houses the elevator lift. And so there's two sides of it, so it kind of goes like this, and they just alternate. So when you pull in, it kind of goes like this, and they actually move to the side a little bit, and they pass each other, and then they move back down like this. And so then another coaster car will go, and then another one drives in here, and then it just switches again. So.
Okay.
So that in itself is just an interesting experience to be kind of on an elevator going up 200 feet.
Yeah.
And there's like... and there's like war drums playing as you're going up.
Can you see as you're going up?
Pitch black. Pitch black going straight up.
I would be okay on that, but like I don't do heights very good.
Well, you're inside, and it's like I said, it's pitch black, so you wouldn't be able to see anything.
So is it like the Raven where you hang there for a moment before you drop?
Not really. So
okay.
as you go over the edge, there is a trim brake, so you don't just go. But I don't think it ever stops. I think it just kind of slowly goes over and then down to the drop, from what I remember.
I could do it then.
So, you would be fine. And then once you get past that drop, the rest of it is stuff that you've done 100 times. So,
100 times?
Well, maybe not 100 times. That may be an exaggeration, but and it's not just the first drop too. Like the first drop's obviously the highlight. That's the thing that catches people's eye, is that crazy first drop.
You see it from like the park.
The ride. This was brilliant. Whoever decided to build the ride where they did it's absolutely brilliant placement of the ride, because it is so menacing as you drive by on the interstate. The park is just right off the road, and so you can see some of the other rides like Wicked and Colossus and stuff. But this dominates the skyline of the front of the park, and it's really easy to see as you're passing it, just the crazy inversions. And if you're really looking, you probably should be paying attention to the road. But if you're really looking, you can definitely see like, oh, that drop like goes more than just straight down, like beyond vertical, like so. Yeah, it's great placement, and I guarantee there's been people that have been drawn into the park just by driving by this and seeing, what is that? Yeah. Like it's a crazy coaster just to look at. So, but then the rest of the ride is really great too, and I mean, first of all, only lap bars too, so super comfortable, those are always nice. Super comfortable. There's one part of the ride it's an inversion that they specifically designed for this ride. You can only find it on this. They called it the Lagoon roll because they invented it. They can name it what they want.
Yeah.
So it's basically you do like a half barrel roll, or actually no, you do like almost a full barrel roll, but then it flips back the other way. So instead of doing like a barrel roll and then a barrel roll one direction, it's like kind of like that. I don't know.
Like
it's
an S kind
almost.
Of
it's how. Is there any pictures of it? Obviously, if you watch like the POV video, that's the best way to. Here's the picture of it actually. So you do like a barrel roll, but then before you get all the way over, you like flip back the other way, and then I do technically think you go upside down twice. I don't know if they classify it as two inversions or just one, but you get it's right after the mid-course breaks. It's actually, this is a better picture not here. This one, there you go. That's a really good picture of it. So you can see it's right after the mid-course breaks, and so it's going really slow when it goes through its inversion. So you're just hanging there, and I will say the restraints are a little uncomfortable at that point, just because you're basically hanging from your thighs.
Interesting.
So that's a lot of pressure on your thighs, but
that would make me nervous. I feel like just hanging there by your thighs. You've never had any issues with it before?
I mean, there's lots of coasters that just have a lap bar that have lots of hang time, like a Copperhead Strike, or even Time Traveler. I mean, when you go through the inversions, you'll get some hang time.
Phantom has that, I guess.
Well, you're not hanging
No
upside down,
versions,
so
still,
Phantom,
like,
but
you have just a lap bar
yeah,
with that one.
it's easy to make a lap bar completely secure in the modern coaster era. The technology has developed to a point that you can do that. I mean, RMC, all of the RMC iBox coasters are just a lap bar, and those are the craziest, most intense coasters out there. So, but yeah. So, but there's a lot of great elements on the ride. I mean, there's a dive loop that's really good. This element right here. I don't know, just a good time. And then there's a tunnel that you pass through. There's some pretty good theming elements. So
I'm all about the theme.
Yeah. Oh, I forgot this lagoon roll. This is a good picture of it too. You can see you just you spin one way and then back the other way. But there's a pool of water right there. So as you're hanging, you're like, you could look down and you'd be over water when you're doing that portion. So. So just
people have dropped their phone in it before.
Oh, I'm sure. Based on previous experiences, I'm sure plenty of people have dropped phones on this ride. So, yeah, just a lot of fun, and definitely the best coaster at the park. So the hype did not disappoint. So I wasn't like blown away by it. Well, I was blown away, but I wasn't like. My expectations were not exceeded, but they also were met. Like,
yeah.
All the hype that was surrounding the ride, I was like, okay, I get the hype. So I definitely...
You're like, this was cool.
Yeah, it was a great ride. So they did a really good job with it. And what's amazing is for them to build a ride of this scale and for it to be as, smooth as it is, like, it's not like super bumpy or janky. Like, they did a great job building a ride of this scale without a coaster manufacturer to help them. Like, that's just crazy. So, yeah, kudos to Lagoon for the effort that takes to do that kind of stuff.
Do they pull in, like, outside, like, people to help with?
I mean, they do have to do some of it because, like, they don't own, like, a steel manufacturing plant, right? So they still have to, pull in third parties to complete parts of the project. But they're not going out to... So, because this coaster looks most like a Gerstlauer coaster, just with the short trains, the beyond vertical drop, it looks a lot like Gerstlauer's Eurofighter model. So even the way the track is designed with it's like a two rails and a spine and then connected, but so it looks very much like a Gerstlauer, but Gerstlauer didn't touch this project at all. So it's just interesting. They just kind of ran with it and did a great job. So very fascinating. So, well, that is all of the coasters minus Jetstar 2 and Primordial and their kiddie coaster Puff the what's it called?
Puff the Dragon?
Puff the Little Fire Dragon.
Oh, okay.
So
not the Magic Dragon, the Fire Dragon.
Yeah, I think it's a playoff of Puff the Magic Dragon and Colossus the Fire Dragon. That's the kind of the play on words
Puff
there.
The Magic Dragon and Colossus the Fire Dragon had a baby.
It would be Puff the Little Fire Dragon.
You can just see a little commercial for this. I did it, Dad.
So, the one last thing I will talk about before I rank the coasters, I got to give kudos to Lagoon. They have the best coaster operations of any park I've been to. Unbelievable. Like, really? I don't know what the training that they're doing for the ride ops, but every coaster I went on all day, they were just cranking the trains out like crazy.
See, and that's ideal. Like, I almost feel like other parks need to, like, go and observe, like, okay, what are they doing well here? How can we incorporate that into our park? Like, I don't know, like, I feel like there's so many people out there that have opinions of parks that I feel like they need to say, okay, well, this person is saying this, so let's go here, observe what they're doing, and then see if we can incorporate that to our park. I've
always said if we were to ever run an amusement park, is I would just go to each park and take the things that I think that park does best. I would say, like, I want Lagoon's operations, and I want Hershey Park's coaster design, and I want Cedar Point's innovation, and like, just all these little bits and pieces from other parks.
Right.
Because like another thing Hershey does really well is the ride height system, with like
Those
the
are awesome. Yeah,
like,
the little bands.
Man, I can't figure out why every park in the country isn't doing that. It's
so smart.
Well, it tells the kids ahead of time, and I know I've talked about this before, but I'm going to say it again. Tells the kids ahead of time, yes, you can ride this ride, no, you can't. So you don't have kids that are like, sorry, buddy, you can't, wait in line 30 minutes and then find out at the front you can't ride it.
Right.
And it also saves the ride-ups time, because ride-ups don't have to measure every kid that's in line. They just say, oh, you've got a Twizzlers band on? Okay, you're good to go. And it's just such a brilliant system. And there are a couple parks that utilize that. But, like, I think it was either SeaWorld or Busch Gardens. I can't remember which one did that. Or maybe both of them do. But there are so many parks that don't. And I'm just like, it's such a simple system to implement. And it's so effective. But anyway. I've been standing on a lot of soapboxes tonight. I need to calm down.
Built a whole skyscraper with them today.
Soapboxes. I'm gonna fall off.
Soapbox skyscraper.
Oh dear. Oh yeah, operations were fantastic at Lagoon. I think, man, I think I took notes of the operations when I was there. I want to see if I still have the notes. Oh yeah, here it was. So I won't. I made some adjustments to this just because some of Lagoon's coasters don't have big, large trains. Both Wicked and Cannibal have small trains, so that means they're cranking them out faster.
Right.
So I made adjustments to some of these numbers, and I'm not going to call out the parks that it beat, but of the 5 parks I went to last year, there was a park that did 1.16. This isn't how fast they were cranking them out. It's just how many trains they were operating. So this is still applicable to operations, though. So one park was doing 1.16 trains per coaster, 1.75, 1.78, 1.83. Lagoon was operating 1.85 trains per coaster. So not only were they cranking the trains out, but they had more trains on the track than a lot of the other parks.
Yeah.
So even the Ort Schwarzkopf Colossus the Fire Dragon, they had 2 trains operating on that, which even when I went to Busch Gardens, they were only operating 1 train on that one.
Right.
And not only were they operating 2 trains, but they weren't even stacking them. Like, they were getting people out and back on the train so fast that by the time the other train came back into the station, the other one had already taken off. Like, that is hard to do. And so I had to give kudos to Lagoon on the operations on their coasters, because top notch. So
there you go.
All right, well, here I'm gonna rank the coasters real quick and then we'll be done. So
done already?
I know. Well, I mean, we have been recording for an hour and 15 minutes, but
yeah, people are like, get off.
So I already said this, but Wild Mouse at Lagoon is at the bottom of the list.
Bottom of the
bottom
list.
of all the lists.
All the lists. Everyone.
The Bat then comes up at number 7. Number 6, I've got Roller Coaster. Like I said earlier, not a bad ride, just,
standard.
Nice solid wooden coaster with a lot of history, so I appreciate it for what it is.
Yep.
Then Bombora at number 5, which I did not anticipate putting that so high, putting it above Roller Coaster, but just the effort with the extra theming that they put in and the onboard music.
Yeah.
Not a bad ride.
Okay.
Then I had to drop Wicked down to 4 just because of how bad the rattling was, how bumpy it was. So,
right.
But still better than Bombora just because it actually had like a nice thrilling launch at the beginning and something totally unique. So then I ended up putting the Spider just above Wicked, not like, not head and shoulders above it, but just a little bit better just because it was definitely not. So Spider was just running pretty good, and definitely wasn't as bumpy as Wicked was, and got a pretty good ride because, like I said, we had adults on one side and kids on the other, so we got a really good spin going. So
right.
And then my 2 favorites, already mentioned how much I loved Colossus the Fire Dragon, so that comes in at number 2. As much as I loved it, I mean, you can't beat Cannibal. Cannibal was just
Cannibal is the way to do it.
Such a good coaster. Cannibal comes in at number 29 on my overall list to give you an idea. So
that's pretty high.
It is pretty high. Probably not as high as other enthusiasts would rank it. Let's see. I have a comparison here that's based on the CoasterBot rankings where I should put it. I mean, it's pretty close. But based on the other coasters I've been on, the CoasterBot rankings would say I should put it at 23.
Okay.
So it's a little lower than other enthusiasts, but not like super low. Like it's kind of in the ballpark of how other enthusiasts feel about the ride. So
right.
So there you go.
We did it.
Well, that
check it off the
Finally, after 10 months, that is our Lagoon trip report.
I promise we will never.
Yes, we will never be 10 months late on a trip report. I promise.
So we've got SeaWorld, Busch Gardens, and Disney World.
Yes, so we got so next week will be our Lagoon episode. So we'll take one coaster and do a deep dive into the history of one of the coasters. The week after that, I will say this is tentative because you never know what can happen. But what our plan is the week after that will be SeaWorld trip report, and then 2 weeks after that will be Busch Gardens. 2 weeks after that will be Disney World. So that's kind of how it's going to work out. You're going to have plenty of trip reports over the coming weeks, and then as of right now, depends how finances go because we've got some medical bills that kind of caught us off guard. So you never know. Things might have to change. Plans get canceled and stuff. But as of right now, we're planning on going to Hershey Park in July and then Busch Gardens Williamsburg in October. So that's kind of how that's playing out right now. Maybe one or two other parks in there. Those are still to be determined based on other things and finances and yada, yada, yada. So keep an eye on all those trip reports coming out and potentially some other ones later this year as well. And as always, we have our normally scheduled episodes every 2 weeks. So if this is your first time tuning into the podcast, these trip reports we do are just bonus episodes. The actual podcast, we talk about roller coaster history, and we take one coaster and dive into the history of that coaster. So be sure to go and check those out. Our most recent episode, we just did Storm Runner at Hershey Park. That was a good time. We love us some Storm Runner. And like I said, we'll have a Lagoon episode coming out next Thursday. So be sure to go check those out. And you can follow us on our socials, on Twitter and on Instagram. Our handle on
Twitter. It's not
Twitter /X. Twix. I saw someone earlier this week call it Twix. I was like, that's really funny.
I'm totally calling it. I'm not even on it, and I'm gonna call it that.
So you can follow us on both of those at Airtime Traveler is our handle. And I think that's all we've got for this trip report. And we will see you in the next one.